Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Adobe Live. My name is James Bonanno, and I will be your host for the next 2 hours here. I am joined by Jesús Ramirez, also known as the Photoshop Training Channel. Jesús, welcome again.
Hey, James, how's it going? Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely, my pleasure. If you guys, or if everyone missed yesterday's stream, Jesús and I discussed an epic movie poster that we might show a little recap to, and we will be getting into some more Photoshop editing and trying to recreate a really awesome little rom-com poster today. For those that are joining the chat, welcome. Thank you to everyone who joined yesterday and was so engaged. Let's see, I know we got a laundry list of people in this chat. Welcome, Cody Bear. Welcome everybody to the chat. And for everyone joining us, welcome. We're excited to have you. So that being said, Jesús, do you want to kick us off a little bit and let us know what we're working on today and what people can expect to see from you?
Sure, definitely. Just really quick, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jesús Ramirez. I run the Photoshop Training channel, as you were saying, James. It's a YouTube channel where I teach people how to use Photoshop, so you can check that out. Also, you talked about yesterday's stream.
Yes.
So if you go into photoshoptrainingchannel.com/Thor, you'll see all the free Adobe stock assets that I've used. At least they're free right now. I don't know if they'll be free forever, but they're currently in the free library. And we worked on, this is actually the one that I practice on, the one that we created here yesterday, James, was, I believe, this one.
Yeah, getting a sneak peek at what we're going to be working
on today. Not this one. It was this one with the green hair. So we worked on that yesterday, and today I wanted to do something completely different. I didn't want to just do, because I'm a big superhero fan, action movie fan, so I just didn't want to have, another thing like that. So I decided to create like a rom-com type of movie poster. This is not by any means the final version. I just wanted to have some files to work with in case my internet wasn't working. But what I wanted to do is take some suggestions as we work on, maybe we can put like a boat or something in the background, or I don't know, something, anything that you guys want that I can search for on stock.adobe.com, and we can just add to it on the go, so that you guys can see how I can tackle challenges and problems that come along that I wasn't prepared for. So awesome. Hopefully that teaches you guys something new.
Awesome. Well, they look very happy standing in a pool of water, but I believe this is going to be a really, really fun stream. And a little housekeeping before we get started, Jesús, to those that are new to this format of the stream, please, we want this to be a very collaborative next 2 hours, and ask as many questions as possible. We are here to answer those. By we, I mean Jesús, and I will do my best to chime in. Sean, welcome. Andreas, Marcia, Steve, thank you everybody for joining. And without further ado, Jesús, I guess let's take it away. We will be taking a little bit of a break as we get into the stream to highlight a specific artist through our artist spotlight program. But from now until then, it's all about this amazing rom-com movie poster and Jesús's insane Photoshop skills.
Awesome. Thanks, James. Before I forget, I do want to mention that just like yesterday, I have a page where I'm going to put all the links that I use. Obviously, since we're recreating it on the stream, I don't have them yet, but they will be on photoshoptrainingchannel.com/comedy. So it's going to be a comedy rom-com type of poster. So this is the sample one. But as we work along today, I will be saving the links to the free Adobe stock assets so that you can go into this page and maybe recreate your own poster, maybe add some of your own images. So that will be at photoshoptrainingchannel.com/comedy. So yeah,
Perfect.
let's get started. We'll do it just like yesterday. We'll start by creating a new document. File, new. I'll create a document that's 1920 by 1080, and I'll click on create. Whoopsie daisy. We're bringing that back. Remember, James, we talked about it yesterday.
So it's the whoopsie daisy. Let's maybe we can keep a little tally and see how many times whoopsie daisy gets slipped out.
So I created a horizontal canvas. I wanted a vertical one, so I could either close it and start again, or I can go into image rotation, flip, counterclockwise, either 90. Either of these will work in this case since there's no content, but I just wanted a poster portrait style, not horizontal. So yeah, so we were thinking about working with, or I was thinking about working with, for a rom-com movie poster, and we were discussing this before the stream started, James. How I'm a big action movie fan and comic book movie fan, and I was looking at movie posters, and I was thinking of what I would recreate for you guys today in the stream, and I saw the Inception movie poster where they had a street and it was flooded, and then you had Leonardo DiCaprio standing in the middle, and I thought that looked really cool. But I thought, oh, maybe we can do that, but with a rom-com feel, not so gritty or, you know, action movie style, more of like a fun type of thing. So that's why I decided to go for this particular idea. And what I did was go into stock.adobe.com and I just searched for, you can see like I was looking for these different things. For example, I looked for a couple isolated on gray. So that's what we were discussing yesterday. We were talking about when you search on stock.adobe.com, I like using the word isolated when I do my searches. If I'm looking for an image that doesn't have a background, usually it will be on gray or white. Sometimes you may see something in a color like pink in this case or green, but these images will be a lot easier to mask than just having them, you know, up in front of a building or a mountain or a tree or something.
Yeah, very
true. I was scrolling down and I found this couple here, but then later on, I don't know if it's the same couple or a similar couple, but they have a photo here where, here we go, this one here. This is the one that I found. And it's, again, we talked about it yesterday. If you make sure that you select free under this drop down so that anything that you download is free. You do need a Creative Cloud, an Adobe ID, excuse me. And with that Adobe ID, you can just come in here and download this free asset. So you can, you know, click on license for free. It'll remove the watermarks and all of that. It will place it in your Creative Cloud library. And when I open up Photoshop, you should see that image here. It also brings up what, I'm sorry.
I have a silly question. Jesus,
Sure.
Sorry, just while you're on that topic. So with an Adobe Creative Cloud membership and ID, obviously you can download these assets for free. Are there premium assets? I assume that you would then have to pay like per asset to download.
That's correct. I'm not exactly sure of the pay plans, but they are pay plans and also like a la carte type of downloads that you can use, and you can just come in here and look at pricing to see all of that. But there's a lot of different things. We have images, videos, audios, templates, 3D assets, premium images, and images for editorial purposes. So you have all of that here. And you can filter them by so many different ways as well. Maybe you're just looking for images that don't include people, so you can exclude people and, you know, things like that. So anyway, very good question. And you can I primarily use Adobe stock assets. Now I know there's other competitors that have free assets. You can use those as well. But I really like it that when I download something or license something, it comes right up into my Creative Cloud library, and I can just drag it into my document. And it's a seamless workflow. So that's what I prefer using. But every now and again, there might be a cool asset on another website. But primarily, I stick with Adobe stock.
Yeah, and that ease of use there is so nice. I remember just before that being a feature, having to download a million different stock files, and then my desktop gets crowded and you're dragging everything in. So I think just having it all in one place here is really quite easy.
Definitely. I like the comment Sean said, search rom-com, exclude people.
That would be an interesting result. What would come up there? Just maybe field of like beautiful flowers.
Or a Pixar movie with animals.
Yeah, there you go.
So what I'm going to do now is we're going to mask the background out, and we'll use a different technique. Yesterday, we looked at using the channels for masking something. In this case, I actually do think that doing the background removal will probably give us good results right away. So we'll see. As we discussed yesterday, sometimes you have subjects that have a lot of intricate detail, and it might give you a better mask if you just start with the channels and then adjust that, then starting from the remove background button. But in this case, it just does a really good job right off the bat. And you don't need to do this, but I'm just going to do it so that you guys could see. Like if I place this up against this dark gray background, you can see that it did a really good job. I mean, there's just maybe a few issues here on his hair, just a few issues here on her hair, but nothing major really. The way that I like to do my masking is by doing it in two passes. So the first pass will obviously select the main subjects, and then I like to adjust the edges. You can go onto this view drop down and select black and white so you can really see the edges of the mask. When you zoom in, you'll notice that the edges are pretty jagged, and usually you don't want that. So I'm going to click and drag on these global refinement sliders. I'm going to drag on the smooth slider to smooth those out. It may take a second since this is a pretty large image, but as you can see, we have much smoother edges, and that's exactly what I want. Then from the contrast slider, I can drag this over to the right, and that will create contrast between the edges. In other words, it'll make the edges sharper. So we have a really sharp mask now. In some cases, you may need to add a little tiny bit of feather, excuse me.
Yeah, they should change the name. It should be fur.
It should be fur, I agree. Feather, which blurs the image. I actually blended the two words, feather and blur, and it came out as fur. But anyway, as we discussed yesterday, I'm working with like 15% less brain now, man. So I forget things.
Yeah, that's a discussion for later in the stream. Yeah, if anybody missed that.
But anyway, so now that I have this mask, I'm just going to, you don't have to go back into the onion skin mode, but I am, just so that you can see what I have. And, it's looking great, but if you notice, these are global refinements and the hair looks terrible. However, all the other edges look fantastic. So what I like to do is just simply press OK to commit those changes, and then go back for a second pass. And I'm not going to touch the global refinements at all, because I already took care of that. What I'm going to do now is simply focus on the hair. There's two things you can do. You can either go into the Refine Edge brush tool and manually paint in the edges of the people's hair, or you can click on the Refine Hair button. It will do exactly the same thing, and it'll do it automatically. In some cases, It doesn't do that good of a job. In this case, it did pretty okay. It looks like it missed a little piece back here. Let's see if I can fix it. Yep. Yeah. And that's pretty good. And I'm going to leave it like this for now. It looks like I'm going to do just one more change. I probably don't need to do this, but like her shoelace here. So I'm just going to, maybe with the quick selection tool, I can get away with that. So I'll enable the quick selection tool, click on this minus button to subtract, and I can just subtract that out. And this is looking pretty good, not too bad. And just like yesterday, you don't want to spend too much time on these small details, because I don't know what the final composite is going to look like. So maybe this foot will not even be visible by, the water and other things. So this is going to be good enough for now. I'll press OK, and we have a pretty good mask. So we can pretty much place them anywhere we want. The reason that I did this in a separate layer, not my working layer, is so that I could then convert my couple, I like to name my layers, as we discussed yesterday, into a smart object, so that I can just transform it any way that I want. So I'm going to drag that in here, and I can place them in any way that I want. Notice that the mask was actually not that good. I missed a little bit here, but that's okay. We can fix that later.
And so like we were talking about yesterday, Jesus, down into the process of you putting this entire composite together, you can then refine that just by going back into that layer, because it is a smart object. And those masked adjustments, you can continue to refine if you need to, erase a part of that. What was not actually taken. So like around the shoe there and things like that. Yeah.
So as you were saying, I could go back. You notice this little icon here on the bottom right, that indicates a smart object. So I can always double click on that. It opens up. Cool. And I can just come in here, and with the brush tool, I can paint with white with a layer mask. White reveals, black conceals. So you can click on the mask and just paint with white. I'm currently painting with my mouse, but as we discussed yesterday, you could also use the Wacom tablet if you like.
Sean says a shark could be eating the foot. No need to work on the mask.
There you go.
Hey, there we go, Sean. That's possible.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like I'm missing a little bit of his forehead as well. So I'll paint that back in. And
I have a question. Who came up with the term onion skin? What is that?
My assumption is the old school animation days from Disney, when they would do onion skinning, when you're like looking at the original drawing, and then you have like another layer of paper, and you kind of like trace over it, but the next layer has like the arm at a slightly different position. I'm assuming that's where they got the term onion skinning from, but I don't know for sure.
Well, that's a really, really solid guess. You're probably correct on that. It's an old school method, but taken into a a digital age. So the name kept stuck, which is always so funny to me. I'm like, what is onion skin?
Right. So here, I noticed that the frame of his glasses are missing, so I can add it just by bringing down the density so that I can see what I'm working with. You can think of the density slider as the opacity for the mask. So I just want to see more of that original image. And with white, I'm just going to paint, and you can see there's a paint. It's going to make it show more. And I'm holding shift right now and clicking. So when you click once, hold shift and click again, Photoshop draws a straight line in between those 2 points. So I'm just clicking and then drawing a straight line like so. That way I don't need a surgeon's pulse to, mask that in. That looks pretty good, I think, especially for now. And then you can bring the density back up to 100 and there you go.
Cool.
Looks pretty good. So I'll save this. And this is pretty good. Next, we'll look at the background. So I'll probably need to find a different street, just because the street that I used was one that I had on my libraries panel saved already. And I don't think that one's one of the free assets. So we'll work with that. Also, notice that I saved this asset earlier, and I'll show you how I did that. That way we know what we're doing. I was on the main page and I was searching for different types of assets. And actually I just should have turned off my phone. I apologize. Let me turn that off. So I was searching for waterline submerged, like different types of things, so I can get that nice edge. But I was able to locate, after doing a little bit of searching, I was able to locate this file that you see here. And I'm going to license the image, because you can actually bring in images without licensing them. You can see the watermarks, and then once you know for sure that you're going to use the image, you can license it. So I'm going to right click, select license. This Adobe stock window will come up, and it will take a moment and it will license the image. And as you can see, it's already downloading here from my libraries panel, and it should remove the watermark. And you see that now it's the full resolution version of the image without the watermark. And what I can do now is I'll do what I did before, actually. I'll delete this layer just because I might just work on it separately. And with the quick selection tool, just select the water down here as fast as I can. And in some cases, it might actually be faster to make a larger brush. So I'm making a larger brush by tapping on the right bracket key on the keyboard. That's the bracket keys are next to the letter P in North American keyboards, just in case you're wondering. To the right of the letter P, I should say. And here we go.
Awesome. So, a benefit of that watermarking feature too is that you could be, sampling some of these photos to use in a composition for a client, let's say, and you get all the way into this process where you've created the composition, but the watermark is there. And if a client then all of a sudden approves that image, at the final stages of approval, all you need to do is license that, and the work is already done for you, as opposed to having to start from scratch essentially and bring an image that doesn't have a watermark in it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I'm going to go into this image here and drop that there. And I'm going to close all these extra, actually, let me close that like so. Cool. So now we have the water here, and I can, again, just stay consistent, water, and I'll convert that into a smart object. Control T, Command T to transform. You guys might remember the keyboard shortcut from yesterday. When you press Control T, Command T to transform, you may not see the transformation handles. You can press Control 0 to zoom out and see the transformation handles. That's Command 0 on the Mac. And I'm just gonna scale this down. I think we can go all the way to the edge in this case. Why not? So something like that. That looks pretty good. Cool. So now let's look for the buildings. If we don't find anything relatively quickly, I'll just use the one that I used before, but that one will not be a free asset. So usually what I would do in this case is I would type something like street and just the word buildings and see what happens. And we can use this photo of New York. That might work. This one might work as well. So we have a few options. Anything in there that catches your eye, James?
Well, that Brooklyn spot's so famous. I had been there a number of times. I like that one. But that might be overused. So finding something a little fresher. That street with the orange walls was kind of cool. Some good color.
The orange walls. This one?
No.
Or this one here?
I think I'm seeing it lag a little behind you. So,
okay.
I don't know.
Like this one here,
it looks like very Caribbean.
Okay, yeah, you're probably talking about that. I'll click on the little heart here to save it to my library,
Cool.
so that I'm not licensing the image. I'm just saving it so that we can decide if we're going to use it or not. So I saved it. I think that's the one that you're referring to.
Yep.
Oh wow, the Brooklyn Bridge is really popular, as you were saying. Yeah. So tell you what, why don't we download both of those and then see which one works better. That way.
Sounds great.
Yeah, well, I'll use this Brooklyn Bridge one because I don't know if I feel that a lot of rom-coms are set in New York or Brooklyn or something.
Totally. Yeah, it's like it already sets the stage for their story, and you can almost build a better narrative with the background too.
Yeah. So this is maybe I don't know where this cobblestone street was shot in, but they're probably like, what is that? Is that Puerto Rico?
Is that Puerto Rico? It looks like
Puerto Rico. Yeah, Puerto Rico. I don't think it's Texas. I think that was Puerto Rico. So maybe Puerto Rico's flooded, who knows? But then, they went on a vacation of Puerto Rico or something. And here we go. So something like that, right? But, we run into a problem now, James, that we need to fill in the top part. And, it's not necessarily that difficult. It's just time consuming. So we need to make a decision that we keep it or not. I don't know. So then let's try this one. Let's see how much more we get out of this one. I mean, similar problem, but but
at least I guess you have a similar problem, but I think you have more, there's more going on, with, right? Yeah, and more of the image in the background to work with. So you don't really have to fill as much in. Like you can add some of those buildings, add some of that sky back.
Yeah.
Even crop the top of that too.
I agree. And you know what I like? I like the orange contrasting against the blue of the water. So
yeah, me too.
So you know what? This is why they use it in every movie, I guess, or every picture in New York.
It's such a great frame.
Cool. So what we can do now is work on filling in the buildings here. So I'm going to try a technique that I hope works. And it'll work. We'll keep our fingers crossed. It'll work.
That went from a little bit of self-doubt to just I'm confident.
The thing is that I'm doing it in my head. So now that I'm done doing it in my head, I'm pretty sure that it'll work. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer, and I'm just going to call this, like, I don't know, building extension or something like that. And I'm going to go into, we'll go fancy. I mean, we don't have to go this fancy, but why not? We'll go fancy. We'll start with this side.
Okay.
We'll go into filter vanishing point. Yeah, let's do the vanishing point. And then from the vanishing point, you can just create this grid that follows the image. And I know it's not perfect, and we'll make it perfect in a little bit.
Oh wow.
But actually I don't like the way I did that. Let me try again. So I'm gonna go from this edge to this edge here on top, and then maybe here and then down here, something like that. You just got to get the perspective right as best as you can. If Photoshop will tell you if it's not right, because then it'll look the way it looks now.
And so what is the overall goal with the vanishing point tool? That tool is new for me, so
so what the vanishing point is doing, it is creating a grid. And you know what? I'm just so unhappy with this. It's creating a grid that that's gonna use the perspective of the image, and we're gonna clone in perspective. So let me try that again. I wasn't happy with the way that I made that selection or that grid. So let's try again with a smaller area. Yeah, maybe something like this. And once I get it into perspective, I can make it larger. The one issue that I'm having right now is that it's not going past the top edge of the canvas, and that's really annoying. So I'm gonna have to do like a little hack here. So I'm just gonna basically select a smaller part, and I gotta keep it in blue. Once it's in blue, it means that the perspective is working. If it goes into red, it means that it doesn't work.
Gotcha.
So I think this will work. We'll see. So I'm gonna just click and drag this up like so. And at this point, I'm just gonna press OK, just so you can see something. When you press OK, nothing happened, right? But if you go back into filter, vanishing point, there it is. So once you press OK, it's saved. That's like a way that you know that it's saved. And then what you can do now is come in here with the clone stamp tool, and just like you would use the clone stamp tool anywhere else, you will click to set a sample source, and you can paint in perspective. See that?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so cool.
See that? So that's why we did that.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I was kind of curious to see how you were going to do that, and I didn't know that was a possibility. So It seems like a lot of people in the chat, that perspective tool and that vanishing point tool, that was the first time they're seeing that as well. And so in this case, it's kind of the perfect way to duplicate something like that, apartment buildings, like they all look the same in this case anyway.
Right. And, it's not perfect, obviously, right? Because it's scaling it and doing all these different things, but it's good enough that, for most things, you can get away with it.
Right.
And now I'm going to do this part here. And maybe select a different area down here to do this part. That's, it's good enough, and that's on the edge, so we can hide that.
Right.
But now we have this extension. See that? Wow. And it didn't take too much time to do. This next one's going to be a little more difficult because we can't actually see the top of this building. But just to show you a different technique, another thing that you can do is you can probably make this building on the right hand side taller. That way, taller than the frame, maybe not its original height, but it should help hide. And what you can do is just make a copy. So I use the lasso, polygonal lasso tool to make a copy. We talked about this yesterday. Control-Shift-C to copy all, and Control-Shift-V to copy in place. And I can just, move this over. And then what you can do now is reduce the opacity just so that you can see how everything looks. And then you can press Control-T, Command-T to transform, distort it, and then just try to match the perspective accordingly. And this is more manual labor, obviously, but I think that in this particular situation where we don't have too much to copy from, it should give us a decent enough result. So something like this is not quite there yet, but I think it'll work. So something like that.
See, this is why you're the master at this, because I look at the composition and I'm like, okay, maybe that composition is too tall. So I'm just going to crop the top out so that I don't need to worry about all of this work. But obviously when you're setting your, composition settings and okay, this needs to be 1920 by 1080 or flipped vertically 1080 by 1920, you really can't afford to crop any of that. You need to make sure that everything you're creating stays within that frame. So
exactly,
it takes time, everybody, but it's impressive to watch, and it really didn't take you all that long to do now that you know what you have to do.
Exactly. It doesn't take that long, and it's worth it in the end, I think. And to be frank with you, in this particular case, I don't even know if all this is going to show. I'm just making these adjustments to show you guys. But what I would really do, like in a real project, is I would just wait and see if I need a lot of this stuff, just because I don't want to do the extra work. But in this case, I was just assuming that we would need it, and that's it. And also, like in this piece right here is going to be more difficult because the angle and perspective is completely different, and I don't know where I'm going to steal that piece from. So what I might do is I might just put like a lamppost or something there, and then just hide it. Right up here, we can probably get away with just doing some easy. Oopsie daisy.
There it is.
There it is.
Number two.
We can get
Steve says, imagining Jesus making a TikTok video is like Einstein playing Jeopardy. So I have to agree.
Oh man, those TikTok videos can get hard. We talked about it yesterday. I have a TikTok channel, and I also post them on my YouTube channel. But these 1-minute videos, man, you got to be careful with every word that you say, or you'll run out of time.
Yeah, it's so true. You have to be extremely deliberate the shorter the video is. A lot of people think it's easier because it's faster, but it is actually quite the opposite.
Yeah, I agree. It's much more difficult in some ways. Cool. So we'll call that good. And, the sky is super easy. If you're wondering what happened to the sky, well, if I wanted to keep the sky gray, then, that's like the easiest thing in the world. I can just create a new layer down here and just paint with that same gray. I just selected it a moment ago and then just, paint that in. So like the sky is the easiest part.
Right.
If we do a sky replacement, we might do a sky replacement, then we'll use a different technique. But, for this, that looks fantastic. So this, like I said, this part on the top right can be difficult, so we'll just leave that for the end. And this is just the sky. I'll call it sky extension, I guess. Cool. So what was this thing? Oh yeah, top of the building.
Top of the building.
And I'll just say right, so that I know which side. And the reason that you want to name a lot of stuff, is we talked about it yesterday, is not just because you might be sharing a file with somebody, it's just for your own good. Like if you told me, hey, that corner in that building is not looking good, can you fix that? And I have 1,000 layers, like, oh man, which layer is that? Yeah. Or just click with the move tool and then right click, and then you can select top of the building, right, and there it is.
Well, and how many times do you open up a file a year or two later that you're trying to either re-edit or share in some other way, and you open up that file and if you didn't have it organized, it looks like gibberish to you, and you created it. So it is important to make sure, in case you look at it again, that it's as organized as it can be.
Definitely. Another thing that I'm thinking about now is I actually like the values, the brightness values of the background. I don't like this dark foreground, so I'm going to match the water to this background. And we talked about it yesterday. One of the easiest ways to do that is by creating a black and white adjustment layer, so that the color goes away and you can just see how bright things are. And notice how the darks are just very dark here in the front of the water compared to the building in the background. So it's definitely much brighter. Since this is a smart object, I can go into image, adjustment, levels. That's exactly the same thing as creating an adjustment layer and clipping it to it. The reason that I'm going this route is because once I apply it, it's going to be in a smart filter and just keeps things more clean and organized. But you can do an adjustment layer if you like. And with the output level, I'm just going to move this black point to the right a little bit. This basically tells Photoshop how dark the darkest color is. If I move it here, the darkest color will no longer be black. It will be this shade of gray. So then I can, maybe place it right about here. Maybe move this one to the left so that white, pure white, is no longer the brightest color. Now is this off-white. And I can click and drag the gamma slider to maybe adjust the contrast a little bit. Still brighter than I like it to be, so maybe something like that. And of course, you can adjust it until you're happy with the results, and something like that will work for now. We can come back and adjust it later if need be. So this is before and after. So it's just matching the scene a little better. Also, another thing with an adjustment layer, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but with an adjustment layer, I can, make all those adjustments, but then I can reduce the opacity, and then I can change the blending mode and all that fun stuff. Well, you can do that with the filter as well. Notice this little icon here, this little doohickey thing here on the right. If you double click on that, it brings this up. And from here, you can bring down the opacity of that adjustment. Gotcha. And you can change the blending mode to say luminosity so that it only affects the luminance values. And you can press OK. You can also go into image, adjustment, hue and saturation, and then maybe bring the saturation down a little bit just so that it matches the background that it's in. And I'll press OK. And that's looking much, much better before and after. And again, you have that little icon here in case you want to change the opacity or blending mode for that hue and saturation adjustment. I think things are looking pretty good. What do you think, James?
I think they're looking great. Yeah. I saw someone in the chat earlier talking about the depth of the water and how it looks like it is really deep. And I know that's an intentional choice. And I don't know if you were planning on in the foreground to stack another more shallow water so that our subjects that we're actually photoshopping into that look like they're under the water.
Yeah, it definitely looks really deep. And
it's very scary.
That was the point. It was supposed to be sort of like a I don't know, maybe like, well, this is the thing. We don't know what the movie's about. You have to watch the movie.
We don't. Yeah.
No, but
we need
that's
to we need to write the script. We need to figure out what the movie is.
That's correct. And no, that's a very valid point. I mean, I could have, to be completely frank with you, what the reasoning that I chose that is because it was one of the first few pictures that kind of work with the angle and the perspective in Adobe stock. If I would have spent a little more time, I probably could have found something that match the depth better. You can try making some like distorting this, and maybe we can get away with this not looking so deep. I don't know, maybe something like that, but in this case we're just gonna leave it.
Sure.
Let's see, what do we have next?
Maybe the theme of this movie is that this couple is so deeply in love with each other that the depth of this water symbolizes their relationship. I'm just grasping at straws here, but
hey, why not?
Once we get this looking pretty good, anybody in the chat, please leave your comments on a good rom-com title. Give us some story, give us some context of what this could be about.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe you can incorporate that into the composite.
Absolutely.
So I'm actually thinking that might be better, just because I see that this side of the building is brighter, this side of the building is darker. So I just flipped it so that the water is also bright on the same side. What we can do now is work with the other image that I found, which was this underwater image, because I needed to get this line right here.
Right.
So then I can just, let me license this image. And I can close this because now I've opened the watermark version, but if I double click on it again, it opens up this version. And I can just, take what I need. I probably need, I'll just take more than what I need just to be sure. So I'll take like this much here, Control C to copy, Control C to paste, and I can just bring this down to like match it to my composite. I don't know, something like this. And I'm doing two things at once. I'm fine tuning and I'm also like sketching at the moment. So when we're,
right,
maybe like an hour from now or 45 minutes from now, we can go in there and rearrange things. But since, we only have an hour and a half, I gotta do two things at once. And I call this like, what do you call that? Like waterline? I don't know, but
yeah, I guess, yeah, waterline or watercrest. And I mean, that's the important reason for that asset is to make sure that you still have that line, because if you were to just, plop these two people in the water as you currently had it, it would of course look very out of place because there is no line where they would actually be standing under.
So something like this.
Yeah. We got a couple titles in the chat. Let's see what we have here.
What do we have?
Let's see. Well, here's a theme. Two lovers meet during the storm of the century in New York.
Okay. Oh, I like that.
I like that as a tagline. Kim B, rocking that tagline. By hell or high water, love and fresh water, still waters run deep. Let's see. Save me from the flood. I don't want to drown with my lover. These are great, everyone. Keep them coming.
Yeah. And I see a question from Jose A. de Leon. He's asking, when you license an image like Jesus is doing, one must pay a fee. You don't have to pay if you're downloading images from the free assets library, Jose. And you can, when you go to Adobe Stock's website, I don't know what I clicked on. I meant to go to the homepage. When you go to the Adobe Stock website at stock.adobe.com, you can click on this drop down and make sure that you select free. And when you search, you'll get free assets. And another cool thing is, like I know they have a clouds video. When you search for clouds, for example, you're going to get a bunch of photos of clouds, right? But you can also change the asset type to videos. And now you have like these really cool like clouds that you can put on like your images. So I've actually used these videos as like sky replacements to create like a cinematograph or like an animated GIF, like your wife Anna was doing not too long ago here on Adobe Live. You guys can go back and watch that stream. I believe she used Photoshop to create her cinematograph, right?
She did. Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
One thing I just wanted to touch on real quick, Jesus, and then we'll get back into the edit here. But for those that are watching this that are, also photographers, which I believe many of the creatives in this chat are, Adobe Stock is really a great place. I do this myself. When you search these assets and when you see how many free assets and just the simplicity of what you're looking for, it does also kind of spark some inspiration as a photographer to, try to generate a little bit of income by creating those photos yourself and maybe having an Adobe Stock account and uploading those photos. So all the photos that we're seeing in Adobe Stock were created by another photographer. So it's possible to create your own library, and keep that for your own composites as well as somebody else to download.
Definitely. I definitely would encourage you guys to do just that and upload your own stuff. If you have files that are just sitting in your hard drive, why not? Somebody may need them and you make a little cash.
Yeah.
Cool. So what I'm going to do now is just color match the water. I think I'm going to keep this blue. I'm kind of liking it contrasting with this orange. Maybe I'll make the orange darker a little later, but for now I'll match this blue to the previous or to the water just above it. So I'll create a hue and saturation adjustment layer, clip it to the layer below, and just bring down the saturation, maybe adjust the hue a little bit, bring down the, you know what? I usually don't like using the lightness slider to make my adjustments to brightness when I'm doing color changes, because I can either go darker or brighter and it just leaves it really washed out, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
So what I like to do instead is create either levels or curves. We'll go with levels because it's easier to understand. I'll clip it to the layer below and just use this middle slider, and that allows me to add a little bit of contrast. And then if I need brighter pixels, I can bring those in. See that?
Right.
So it just gives you much better results, in my opinion. Also, I'm seeing an issue here. We have a lot of empty space here on the bottom. Let's fill that in. I'll select the layer with the rectangular marquee tool. I'll just make a selection like so. And I can, you can go into edit content aware fill, but you know what? For something like this, it's much easier to just go shift backspace. Oh wait, I'm inside the feather. See how I have that activated by accident? Yep. The feather. I can just press the escape key and then do shift and backspace. And from the fill drop down, select content aware and press OK. And I don't need to go through the window for that. This is just fine. See that? Awesome. So the other method, just in case you're wondering, just so you can see the difference, is go into edit, content aware fill. It's going to bring up the content aware fill menu, and you have all these options just to fill this thing here that you really don't need to worry about, so it's much easier to just do it the first way if it's something relatively simple like this.
Right.
Cool. And I still think there's a lot more saturation in the bottom than the top, so bring down the saturation even further, maybe something like that. And for now, I think this looks pretty good. And
it looks awesome.
I'm still not sure if I'm going to keep all of this, by the way. What I mean keep is, maybe I'm going to move the image up or down or something. So here, let me put all this into a group. I'll call this background. Here's the trick for you. See how I forgot to include my layer in there? If I just drag it and drop it into the group, it's going to place it on top. See that? I don't want that. I want it to place it at the bottom of the group. So if you hold shift and then click and drop it in there, it'll place it at the bottom of the stack. That actually changed in Photoshop. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I want to say Photoshop 2018 or so. Adobe, in their infinite wisdom, decided to change that. So before, when you dropped a layer into a group, it would go into the bottom of the stack, and after like 2018 or something like that, it went to the top of the stack. So what you have to do now is hold shift if you want it to go to the bottom of the stack.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a very helpful trick. And your Adobe yearly updates too. I mean, you're using it so often that those are things that
they're blending at this point.
I know.
Even though I have one empty layer here, and I could easily delete it, sometimes you may be working on a composite and you just create layers and you forget about them. You can always go into File, Scripts, and select Delete All Empty Layers, and then you always have a clean layers panel there. Cool. So this is looking pretty good. It's not looking too bad, but now that I have this in a group, I can maybe bring it down or up or do whatever I want to do with it. So
we have a cool suggestion from Ferry in the chat.
What is he saying?
We may run out of time for this, but I kind of agree. It would be sweet. He says maybe exposing a bit of details of the building underwater would be interesting. And yeah, he said, if you remember one of Anna's works, the one with the lighthouse, which Ferry, that is my favorite piece that she's done. It is actually hanging up in her office. So what I like, Jesus, about what you have built already is that you do have this negative space under the water that can kind of become a scene in itself if you really took it to the next level.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? I like that idea of showing the street and all that underwater. So let's do that. But just to show you guys, if I duplicate this and bring it all the way to the top, I don't know if this is gonna work, by the way, but we'll see. Notice that we don't have a lot of that,
right,
of that street, right? But thankfully, as we were discussing earlier, this building has been shot 1 billion times, and I'm sure Adobe stock has more images. So, all right, so I'm going to test you guys' knowledge because I don't know what this is. Brooklyn, right? And that's the Brooklyn Bridge. Is that what
I
it
think
is?
I think that's the Brooklyn Bridge. And if or it's not the Manhattan Bridge. I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge.
And is that like, did I misspell Brooklyn? Oh, is it, they want, okay. Brooklyn Bridge, and is that like the street, right? Is that what it is?
It's like the what's the market over there? Yeah, there you go, Brooklyn, and it might tell you some more information. But that's the iconic spot, and it's I feel like it's always very hard to find that street without any cars on it.
Yeah. So Manhattan Bridge from Washington Street. Okay, cool. So we clearly don't know our geography. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah. It was a 50% chance. I've walked the Brooklyn Bridge and then I've shot that bridge, and I always forget which one is which.
Cool. So it looks like
and Ferry had another question, and I'll touch on this as you keep going, Jesus. The difference between negative space and positive space. Basically, that negative space in that image is just the space that can really be filled with other elements, and it has some breathing room. I mean, that's not it's not the encyclopedia or the definition of negative space, but it gives you the ability to add to it.
Yeah. So actually, I'm glad I think Ferry asked that question. Yes. You can, when you're searching for Adobe stock, you can actually search for images with copy space. In other words, negative space. You can click on that. And then these, like, for example, this is a perfect example. You can see to the left of her, there's a lot of space. Even a better example, to the right of her, there's a lot of space. And these are not just images that are isolated. These are just images that happen to be isolated in this case. But you can see in this photo here with this lady, to the right of her, there's a lot of negative space where you can put in text or a graphic or anything that you want.
Yep.
But the point is that you can search for images with negative space. They call it copy space, same difference.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, primarily that would be used for copy, website banners, design elements that needed text, that kind of thing.
That's right. Cool. So, you know what? Even though it's like a super popular street, it looks like they don't have that many photos of the Brooklyn Bridge, but I think I can probably get away with using this one. I think this one will work. Let me think about that. I mean, they're pretty much the same. I'm looking at what I'm really looking at is the angle. So this one, this one will probably work better. So I'm just going to go ahead and license it just from here. And I want to be able to distort it and do a couple things to it. So, and by the way, Adobe stock will have you download it into your desktop if you want to. I don't want to do that. I can just get it from my libraries panel. And here it is. So let's see what we have. Let me drag that in here. That's not looking too bad. And what I really want is that, because when I don't have to be perfect for this, but it's always a good idea to just try to be as close as you can to reality. So there's a horizon line established by this background that's right about here. So I want that same horizon, or at least a very similar one, on my road here. But notice that we ran out of space down here. So the horizon line is right about here, give or take. Right. So what I'll do is I will, first of all, fit it into screen like so, and then just make a copy more than I need. Control J on Windows, Command J on the Mac, and I don't need this anymore. So I'll call this street and cars, not cats, cars, although I like cats.
I do.
I like your cat, James.
Yeah, she's the best. Yeah, she's snoozing away today. Usually she's in here on this chair in the background. One of these streams, I'll make sure to set her up on the chair so we can
this
watch
would have
her
been
sleep.
Perfect, because I am a crazy cat person.
Well, we'll have to do that another time.
All right, I think that will look good enough. Yeah, that would probably look good. I mean, it almost even looks good, just not masked out or anything. It's, similar perspective, and that's really all I want.
Right.
So then I need to find this spot right about here, and I can just clip this to the layer below. Boom, there it is. Notice how this is already taking some of these adjustments, and I kind of like that. I mean, I can obviously adjust it more. I'm going to just convert it into a smart object so then I can apply. Okay, let me just explain this because I went too fast. So when I clip this to the layer below, and maybe I want to make an adjustment to it. Like maybe I want to make it darker. Well, I can go into the curves adjustment layer, clip it to a layer below. But when I do, it also makes other areas you can't really see, because let me just mask this out. That way you could really see why I did what I did.
Mask this. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when I
Gotcha.
make an adjustment, it's going to adjust the water as well, right?
Right.
So I don't want that. I just want it to adjust the layer. So if I convert it into a smart object first and then apply my mask like so, and if I go into image adjustment curves, when I make curves adjustment, it just adjusts the ground and not that area that I masked out. So that's why I went through that whole process. So I needed to show it so you guys understood why I did that. So what I'll do is I'm gonna have to get a little creative here. Let me think about this. First things first, let me go into image adjustment. We'll use levels just because that's what we've been using. So make it darker. Because you have to think about underwater, there's a lot of like particles and a lot of stuff that is blocking your view from the actual street.
Right.
So there wouldn't be so much contrast, and it might be, something like that, give or take. I don't know. And with the layer mask, I'm going to just start hiding areas like so.
Right. And you get a lot of that kind of like light distortion as well. If you were looking down into the water, things would look a little warped or not necessarily as straight. So once you get that set, you can start to really tweak those lines a little bit too.
Definitely. And I can reduce the opacity a little bit, something like that. And also I want to get more of these particles in the water, but I want them above the street. So what I'll do, I'm thinking out loud here, sorry.
Sure.
So what I'll do is
that's what we're here for.
I'll make a selection around the particles here. So Control C, Command C in the Mac. And actually this is the same technique we used yesterday to add that sweat and that rim light to that guy, remember? So What I'll do is I'll desaturate, Control Shift U. On Windows, Command Shift U on the Mac, it removes the saturation. And notice that we have basically a black and white image and the particles are almost white. Well, I want them to be closer to white. So I'm going to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and just crunch the blacks like so, and bring out those particles like so. And I can go into the blending modes and select screen. See that?
Oh, and that makes them pop quite a bit.
Yeah, and that might be too much, obviously, right? But now I have total control of it. Over it,
Very cool.
So now the particles really do look like they're in front of the road there. And I can just call this particles. And I can create a layer mask if I need to. I think they're a little too strong here. I'm not liking them right on the top here. So I can just hide those like from here. Super, super cool. See that? And you know what? This is too sharp, in my opinion. I think it would be maybe a little more blurry. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then you can decide how blurry you're gonna make those.
And now, Jesus, on that blurriness, would you add a Gaussian blur, or would you add any other kind of blur based on like maybe the movement of the water that's underneath?
Very good question. I mean, to be frank with you, what I should have done was maybe not do a Gaussian blur. I probably should have done instead like a tilt shift, kind of like we did yesterday. Yeah. So that, maybe just the things that are closest to us are in focus. So I can bring this down, actually bring this one down. And just to explain it, I know we did yesterday, but in case people missed it, there's two solid lines here. Everything in between these two solid lines will be in focus, so no blur. And then there's a dashed line on top, dashed line in the bottom. So between the solid and dashed lines, you'll have a gradual transition between in focus and out of focus. So blurry and not blurry. So I can then just bring this down, and then it just progressively gets blurrier, as we go back.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's amazing how, you really start to build everything to be subtle, and really fit into the composition, and you're in just deconstructing, what you have here. We started with the long road of the Brooklyn Bridge, or sorry, Manhattan Bridge. And now we're kind of trying to hide this properly. So it's amazing how much deconstruction has to go into making something subtly fit naturally in the shot here.
So I'm actually adding 2 blurs now, James, because I was happy with the transition to blurrier, but I still thought the foreground was just too sharp. So I just did an overall blur. So you can stack blurs on top of each other.
Gotcha.
So that's looking much, much better. Control semicolon to hide the guides. A lot of people tell you to press Control H. That will work as well. The problem with Control H is that you hide all extras. So, but if you want to hide specifically the guides, Control semicolon. Semicolon key is right next to the letter L in North American keyboards. So now this is looking pretty good. What I'm going to do now is what we did yesterday. Remember how I put everything into a final layer and then apply the camera raw? So I can go Control Alt Shift E. So in other words, slam your head onto your keyboard, Control Alt Shift E, and then you get this merge layer of everything.
Cool.
I'll call it final. And I'll convert it into a smart object. And I'll start just, thinking about the final look that I'm going for, just so that I can, do what we did yesterday. Just as we progress, we make sure that we stay in line with what we're going at the end. So maybe, add a little bit of yellow to warm it up, reduce the highlights to get more detail on that bridge. Maybe add a little bit of texture just to make the water and everything pop.
Man, it looks so cool already. I mean, even without a subject, I think there's so much to look at. And I think that's already feeling like a really good, I don't even want to say starting point because you've done so much already, but a really good, place to
midpoint, at least
midpoint to get our subjects into the frame.
So one thing I wanted to point out, I don't think I talked about yesterday, when you're sharpening, a lot of times you can't see what's going on. Make sure that you always view your sharpening at 100%. Any other zoom level could be misleading, and even at this point you really can't see what's going on. So if you hold the Alt key on Windows, Option on the Mac, it'll remove the color so you can better see how you're sharpening the image. Also, I like to add a little bit of masking. If I hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click, everything will turn white, just like a layer mask. White reveals, black conceals. So this is applying the sharpening effect to the entire image. If I drag to the right, you'll notice that Photoshop will start finding the edges, and anything that is black will not have the sharpening effect applied to it. And that's what I like. I like to just apply the sharpening effect to the edges.
Gotcha.
So something like that. And then we'll go into effects. We'll add a vignette. And we'll add a little bit of grain because when we blur, we lose all the texture from the actual photo. And just when everything looks so smooth like this, it just looks fake. But when you add a little bit of grain, it makes it look more like a photo again.
Right.
And you can press OK. So this is more or less where we're going in that, that color. And I think it's looking pretty good. What I'm going to do now is work on this couple and try to integrate them into our scene. So I don't know, I see too high, too low. I don't know.
I guess the initial, when you're looking at this couple now, the initial, issue is the legs and how to float, like make it look like he's standing in that water without just having his legs chopped off.
Exactly.
So a lot of little things I guess you can do with that.
Yeah. All right, well, this is why we're here, right? To tackle this challenge. Yeah. So I'm going to do something that's maybe a little unexpected. I'm going to put him into a group, and I'm just going to call this group couple. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I want to have a layer mask for them being submerged underwater. So basically, something like that. And I'll just, do it quickly. Something like that. And then if I need to, I can create a layer mask on them. And then, this is not really what I want to do, but let's just say that we wanted to maybe we want her foot sticking out, right? So we just hide it and we don't want her foot sticking out. So that hides her foot there. But then this layer mask hides them underwater. So if I want to move them, I can. See that? They're still underwater. See that?
Yeah. Okay.
And her foot's still hidden.
Right.
If I were to do that all on the same layer mask, I wouldn't be able to do that. So here, let me show you what that looks like. So with this couple, in the group, and do it all in one mask, and then my art director says, you know what, I don't want them there, and put them in a different position. When I move them, her foot comes back out.
Gotcha.
So I just want to keep them I don't know. Maybe now I think they look a little too big, to be honest. So let me make them smaller, something like that.
Right. And in this case, you have almost like competing subjects. You have the background, which is that bridge, which as a landscape photo might be the subject. But in this case, we're making this movie poster. So the couple is your primary subject, and you want to try to make them proportional so that you're not totally blocking the bridge, but they don't look so tiny in the frame that it looks awkward.
And one thing, when you're doing something like this, just follow the natural contours that's already there with the water. See that? So I'm just painting over that wave so that it looks more natural, and it just doesn't look like a straight line that I arbitrarily drew to, place them in there. So I'm just trying to keep it as natural as I can. And I have my hand on the X key on the keyboard, so I can swap between the foreground and background color so that I can paint in accordingly.
Yeah, and X switches that brush, right? X goes from black to white.
Yeah, see that?
Yep.
Cool. And that's not looking too bad.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, we got about 30 minutes for our artist spotlight. So cool. Thank you, Cody Bear, for the reminder. But anyone who would like to nominate either yourself or somebody else for a future artist spotlight, please do. And we will be discussing a really, really cool photographer and going over some art here in 30 minutes. But until then, we are hard at work here. For those that are just joining the stream, we are with Jesús Ramirez, as you can tell. And he is creating this awesome rom-com movie poster. We have been trying to find a way to make this couple fit seamlessly as they're stranded in Brooklyn, but they look so happy about it.
I think I'm going to do some color correction now so that they match the background. Now they have too much contrast or too bright. So let's match them better into this background image. Adjustment levels. I'll remember what I did earlier. I took this lighter so that the blacks will no longer be completely black. Now they're this shade of gray. I'll do the same thing for the highlights. If you can make your black and white image work, the color version should be no problem.
That's such an interesting, that's something that I would have never really thought to do, but really stripping the color from it just so you get the contrast, the lightness, and the color correct in black and white before you can actually adjust the hue and the saturation and color match.
Definitely. I think I changed the blending. I want to make it normal again. Yeah, that's much better, I think. So that's before and after.
Perfect.
And obviously Steve, I can go in there and do dodging and burning, all that fun stuff. What was the question?
Steve says maybe a small, what did he say? I just refreshed my chat here. Steve, maybe a small crab or a lobster climbing up his arm.
Let's do that.
We should certainly try to add that, or on her shoe. That would be cool.
Let's see. A crab, right? Is that what he said?
A crab.
Let's see what maybe we can get lucky and we have an isolated crab. Oh, I mean, that one's isolated. I'll still do it.
Or we have imagine all the New York City rats that would be swimming around in the water. That's real nightmare feel. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think we can do a crab. Like maybe this guy going. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, I think I like this angle better. Just him going up, right? Like on his arm or something. All right, let's do that. Something. Let's license that, and I'll go back into Photoshop.
That probably is what would happen if New York City flooded, though. If you looked under the water, it would be rats, infestation. Yeah. Not great.
Definitely not.
Very terrifying. And now the way that you have them positioned, Jesus, perspective-wise, you wouldn't really see their feet, you think? Is that what the goal was, to try to get them under the water so that...
I'm going to imply that they're there, but I don't want to do too much work, because then it'll become very difficult to get the right perspective and all that.
Right.
But I'll definitely...
You'd have to recreate his legs, which is a lot of work.
Yeah, so I'll use the same technique. He's got a lot of intricate details that I think might be better done with the channels panel. So I duplicated the channel with the most contrast, which is the blue channel. Then I'm going to go into image, apply image, make sure that you have layered background selected or merged, depending on the document that you're working with. And then the channel will be the one that you duplicated. In my case, the blue channel. Multiply makes it darker so you can see the before and the after. And I can do that a couple times just so that it becomes completely black and it becomes easy to select. Maybe one more time.
So there's no shortcut for apply image where you can just
create one if you want to, but there's no default shortcut.
Gotcha.
Something like that. And then Control I, Command I in the Mac to invert, Control click, go back into RGB and create a layer mask. And there he is. And I'll use that minimum technique that we talked about yesterday to remove any kind of fringing. You see that white outline with the layer mask selected? You can go into filter, other, minimum, and make sure you select preserve roundness and start with like a pixel or so and see what that does. Looks like it's a little slow because it's a pretty large image. You know what, we'll just go up to 3 and then we'll just call that good. I'm sure that about 3 pixels will work. There we go.
Yeah. Perfect.
And then I can just call this crab, convert it into
Mr. Krabs.
And go into our working composition here. I don't know if this crab is implying anything, but we'll just imagine that it's not. Put that here, Control T, Command T to transform, Control 0, and bring that down. I don't know how big he's supposed to be. How big are these things?
That size, that looks proportional.
About this size?
Yeah, well, he'd probably be a little smaller.
Okay, so you know what? He's coming out of the water. Like he's like barely starting to like, you know, fall on her.
They end up falling in love in New York City and adopting a pet crab,
yeah.
A baby crab, a giant crab.
So here's a thing for you guys. Just because something says that it's for something in Photoshop doesn't mean that's what you should use it for. So I'm going to use a glow. So by default, the glow looks like that. And I'm not going to use it for glow. I'm going to use it for a shadow because I want a shadow going around the entire thing, not just a drop shadow. So with the glow selected, change it to normal, and then, or you know, even better, change it to multiply. And then select a color of the shadows here, like, I don't know, like this really dark brown color. And then you can increase the size and adjust it any way that you want so that he has like a little shadow going around them. And then maybe add a drop shadow after that too. So like the same brown or a very similar brown. And then which way, I wasn't paying attention where the light is coming from, but I think
it's coming from the left.
Okay, cool. And then we can just adjust the distance and, you know, blur it a little bit, add a little bit of noise, and that's too dark. So maybe something like.
Cody Bear, that's a very valid point. He says that the crab is making a heart shape with the claws, which.
Oh, I like that.
I think maybe this crab was meant to be.
I think so. Good call. I didn't even see that. Thank you, Cody Bear, for letting us know. I didn't think about that. And I think he has way too much saturation. So image adjustments, hue and saturation. And you can bring that down right about there. You know, just fits it much better into the scene. So we have the crab and the couple like we were doing before. Control A on Windows, Command A on the Mac, Control Shift C, and I can go into my final smart object here, paste that in, save it, and I can close it. And that's what the movie poster is looking like with all these adjustments. I think you're right, James, that the buildings might be overtaking the entire image. So what I could do now is I can go into this building image here. Let me think, how am I going to do this? I guess I can put all these buildings into a smart object of their own. And I can go, actually, no, what I should do instead is take building and all the water, not the water line, just the water here, I think. Yeah, I think that'll work. I can take that, convert that into a smart object. Then I can go into filter, blur gallery, tilt shift, and we'll just create that, you know, effect that we talked about, you know, the gradual transition to blurry. That's too much though. Just too much. We just want to give it a little hint, you know, that there's some depth there.
Right. Add some separation too between the.
Yeah.
That helps a
little bit, not much.
Right.
Before and after. Just a tiny little bit. And I think that does a better job into making it seem like this is actual like a real picture and not anything else. Cool. Let's work on the feet. So I don't think, you know, their feet are not showing, so we need to find another couple, like another feet to
if you here's a little wild suggestion just to get, we're already getting just creative and funky with this one, which I love. What if, because we're sort of you're almost starting from scratch with the legs because he's, you know, his torso was really all you had information wise. Maybe you have him have some sort of aquatic legs or something below.
He's a mermaid.
He's a mermaid, but she doesn't know.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
they
maybe
met at the flood.
And they met at the flood, and maybe the crab, maybe he came out of the water and the crab attached to him.
I like
sort
that.
of was his like old life as a mermaid.
I like that.
Or merman.
All right, so let me see where I can steal a.
Yeah, that could be fun.
I like that.
And thank you everybody for the engagement in the chat today. Love the questions. Love the inspiration we're all feeling today. Definitely inspired about this one, and it's fun. It's just fun to play around and have 2 hours of playtime and being almost like being a kid again in kid pics.
Definitely. You know what? Maybe I can steal this one. We'll see. I don't know. I'm going to heart it so I can save it to my library. And this is the most time consuming part, just finding images that would really fit your composite. Right. But, you know, we'll work with what we have. I like that suggestion, James. All right. We'll make it work. We'll see what happens.
I think Anna's whimsical Photoshop creativity has worn off on me over the years. So she'll sit next to me and show me a lot of these assets. Oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And so I think I've gotten used to that, but I think that'd be really cool.
I think we can make it work. So yeah, I mean, you know, it won't be perfect, but we'll make it work. Okay, so I gotta think about this. So it needs to be thicker. I'm just trying to think of like the fastest way of doing it, and maybe I don't know. For some reason, I feel that that might be better. Yeah, I think something like this will work. All right, cool. So now that I know that we're gonna make it work, I can license the image.
And if you're just joining us, Jesus is working on creating a merman with a pet crab in Brooklyn underwater. So those are the spark notes for where we're at.
Definitely. So, you know, I'll take more than I need and I'll copy that and paste it here. It's gonna be pretty big. That's what I wanted. Convert to smart object, mermaid. Good idea.
Cool.
You know, I have to keep it like scaled and in perspective and like all these little different
right
intricacies, but you know, we'll make it work. Yeah, like I said, I think he might look better if he's going this way.
Yeah, and once the final color and you start to bring those highlights and shadows together, it's such a subtle detail that you wouldn't even really notice the legs anyway. But now that maybe it's more of a mermaid, it adds to what this potential movie story could be, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I use the quick selection tool to select that, by the way.
Okay.
I use the same minimum technique to get rid of the fringing, close to smart object, save it. And that looks not too bad.
That's pretty good. That looks
better
looks
than
like
we
he's
expected.
Got a skinny merman waist.
Let's see.
So now at this point, you're trying to drag this layer in between the adjustments that you have so that it's sitting inside the water, but behind the crest of that water, correct?
Yeah, and I'm using a layer mask to, you know, fill that in. And you know what the issue here is that the bottom part looks too skinny, so I gotta make that fatter somehow. So I'm thinking, should I make that fatter here or inside the smart object? So I'll probably do it here just because I don't know, I just feel it's less cluttered. So what I'll do is I'll freestyle it. We'll see how that works. Actually, let me think about this. I know what I'll do. I think I'll duplicate this, hide this, and I'm going to apply the layer mask. So I'm deleting pixels so that I could now work with it manually. Maybe something like this. And I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just not talking so much, and I'm trying to get it.
Sure.
So
yeah, we got about 15 minutes before our spotlight, and then
cool.
and then you should have about maybe 15, 20 minutes on the tail end of that to wrap this baby up. And depending on our time, Jesus and I were talking about maybe trying to throw a little text in here. That might be, time permitting. So we can always mess with that a little bit in the negative space.
This is gonna be good. So I'll close this. We don't need that. All right, that's much better. It needs to be a little fatter. So let's keep going.
So you're making those changes in the smart object layer. And so in doing that, then that asset is being updated in that, in your final composition, right?
That's exactly right. And that's another advantage of working with smart objects. I already had it positioned, but it was too skinny. It was just a matter of deciding where I was going to make the adjustment, in the smart object or in here. I figured it would be better to do it in here because it's much cleaner. There's not so many distractions. And once I click on save, that looks pretty good. See that? And I can just move it a little bit. He's something like that.
Right. He was a hungry merman. He was eating good before the storm of 2021 showed up, wiped out Brooklyn.
Yeah. But he found love.
He did. Wonder where she came from.
I don't know. Something tells me some sort of, I don't know.
Seems like there must have been an H&M under that water to help him get clothed properly with that plaid.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we can get all sorts of crazy here, guys. This is the endless story.
Oh yeah. You know what? Just to hide things a little bit better, and let me think here. How are we gonna do this? Okay, I think I got it. So right above here, I could do a gradient. I will do a gradient and make it black on both sides here. And then on the top one here, I'll change the opacity. Oh, it's already set to 0. I was going to say change the opacity to 0 and bring the scale down, and then click and drag down.
Can you, just for my own knowledge here, and I'm sure other people have some of those questions, in the gradient adjustment layer, like you just did, there's, you have your two options on the bottom and the left and the right, and you selected black on both. So what are the top values?
So the bottom one's control color. You can click on them and see the color and location of that color. The top one's control opacity. So opacity is set to 0, opacity set to 100. So then you go from visible to invisible.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So let's see where we're at. Control Shift C, and then we go here. Control Shift V, and you can see the progression, right?
It's cool. Yeah, it's really
much better.
It's really coming together.
Guys, let me know in the chat. What should I put up here to hide that mistake? Because I don't think I'm gonna be able to have time to rebuild the stairs and all that. I mean, I guess I could take a copy of the windows here and just extend them further, but then I kind of like the stairs here. So
me too. Yeah, I like the stairs as well. I think it gives it some depth. And really, if you wanted to, you could take it a step further, and those steps could have sea debris over them or something, seaweed or algae or something hanging down. So, I mean, you could even take that idea and move that up the building a little, so that maybe some of that, maybe I'm wondering what could cover that would tie in the whole sea theme here we got going on.
So I'm going to make the clothes look wetter by just simply painting on them with black, because
And could you do something similar to what you had done yesterday, where you added that, vintage dust grain, right, to our Thor character to make it look like he was rolling around in the mud and he was dirty and the lightning was creating that dust on him? Can you do something similar here, but with, water droplets or things like that?
Oh, definitely. I can find, like we did yesterday with the sweat. Remember how we took the sweat and just placed it on top of the other guy? Took the sweat from, we can do that with water or even sweat. It might work.
Cool.
It's just a matter of finding the right images. But what I would do for something like that is, again, remove the color, change it to blending mode, and adjust the levels to keep the highlights, which would be the water slash sweat in this case. So just added a little bit of darkness there to imply that, you know, the pants are wet.
Gotcha.
Let's see, what else can we do? Something I should have done earlier that I guess I'll do now is I'll do a different dodge and burn technique. Yesterday, I used the curves adjustment layer for that. Today, I'll use 50% gray. You get the fill window by holding shift and backspace on Windows, shift delete on the Mac, select 50% gray, click on OK, change the blending mode to overlay or screen, or soft light will work as well.
Okay.
And you can select the burn tool, and then you can just paint over the areas that you want to darken up. So maybe I want to darken up like the bottom here, like so.
Bruce, that's a really great suggestion. We have a way to cover that little corner up there, Jesus. He said some kind of sign, maybe like a high tide sign or something to that effect. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that could be kind of cool, or like a danger sign, or
good call,
or you know, something like that would be sweet.
And then the dodge tool, you know, for the highlights.
Kim says that when the movie is made, she's going to pay $2 to rent it on Amazon. I might do that as well.
Nice. Well, we'll release it for free on Adobe stock.
Sure. Yeah, there we go.
I don't know. I'm just, you know, brighten their faces up a little bit. Obviously, this is not the best retouching job in the world, but it'll work for our purposes.
Hey, doing it live with a time crunch, you're doing.
There we go. I mean, just by adding those little highlights and shadows, you completely change the look and feel. It might be too strong, so I'll reduce it down a little bit.
I think the shadows look really, really good. But yeah, the highlights maybe even in her face seem a little high, but that's an easy enough change.
Actually, no, I'll give the crab its own shadow.
Or yeah, no fishing sign could go up there.
Ooh, I like that.
That's cool.
Although high tide kind of makes more sense. We'll see. We'll see what kind of. Yeah. We'll see what kind of signs they have on Adobe stock.
What's cool with that idea, you know, you start to really develop a theme, even though we don't even know what this movie's about. You're just creating an idea of, I like these assets. Obviously, when you started this, Jesus, you kind of got some inspiration from that Inception poster, but in a rom-com way. And so what's cool about this is now you can start to bring in other elements of the sea. So maybe there's, you know, a rope that's hanging down off of that ladder, algae, like we were saying, and just start to, I mean, you can go overboard and crazy with it, but it is cool to start to develop more of that.
Okay, you know what, this is like a premium asset, not a free one. Let me see. I'll just put, what was the other, you said sign for what?
How about we have no fishing, or like storm warning, or.
Oh, storm warning is a good one. No, we might be able to make this one work. Let's see what storm warning.
Tidal wave sign.
Oh, pandemic.
Pandemic. Oh boy. There you go.
Hurricane warning. Maybe that one could work.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I mean, ooh, flood warning. I like that.
Oh yeah, where's the flood warning?
Flood warning or flood area?
Ooh, I actually like that flood warning, because even the perspective of that sign, is already almost set up to work.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do it up. Flood warning.
So you got about 7 minutes, Jesus, before we're going to take our break. So keep on cranking, and I'll let you know when to stop.
Sounds fantastic. I'll just open it up from here. And what would be the quickest way of selecting this?
And yeah, look at the fact that it's already in that crested water there is pretty, works out pretty well. Man, too bad I'm using it to hide something rather than like an actual design element, because I would like it on the water as well. But, I know, it's really cool.
You know, I thought this would be the quickest way of selecting this. Now I'm not so sure, but it is what it is. I already committed.
Yeah, you're already there.
Yeah.
You're in it.
So what I'll do is I'll just crop this just not to have that extra space, convert it into a smart object, and drag it over to where it needs to go. Oh man, that's hilarious. It's like a giant.
So funny.
Where does it need to go? Where
It's
am I?
huge.
All right.
Wow.
What was that?
It looks cool. It looks cool in the just in the frame like that.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, this is nice. Hiding.
Yeah. That's perfect. And it's a subtle, it'll be kind of a subtle hint to, oh man, there's some turmoil on the horizon in this romantic comedy written and directed by Jesús Ramirez.
Oh yeah. You know what? It's one of the best romantic comedies of the season. There you go. Kind of like off screen. I don't know. What do you think?
I almost like it being further off so that you can't fully read that it's flood warning, but you can
something
imply,
like that, you think?
You like imply that that's what it is, like flood war.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then you can always, you almost like, time permitting after we're done, if you wanted to, you could add a little, like an older sign somewhere in the background just to imply that there are other signs that maybe got destroyed or things like that.
Yeah, I like that. You know what? How much time do I have?
You got about 5 minutes, but you'll have probably another 20 minutes total.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to blur it a little bit.
Maybe 15 minutes.
Because this is probably closer to us. I don't know. It's probably, I don't know how far it is, but definitely not as sharp as they are.
Right. It's almost as if you think about if this flood actually happened, it'd be flooding the entire street. Sign might have fallen over somewhere down the road and kind of tipped into this moment in time.
Definitely. Let me think here. How can I wanted to do a sky replacement. Let me just think of the fastest way of doing this. Yeah, you know what? I think we don't need this cobblestone street. I think that we can probably get away with doing yeah, if I take this image here, that same keyboard shortcut where you smash your forehead up against the keyboard, Control Alt Shift E, Command Option Shift E on the Mac, you can take that and then go into Edit, Sky Replacement.
Everyone's like, I'd watch this 10 out of 10 movie. Kim said 7 out of 10. She needs some more character development. I have to agree. We're working on it. We're working on it.
I don't know which one of these will be the best one.
I almost feel like it needs to be I don't know how you feel about it, but it almost needs to be like a stormy sky.
Yeah, I think you're right.
A stormy sky with like a hint of, I don't know, hope on the horizon.
A hint of hope. I don't know how to Photoshop that in. A hint of hope.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe this one.
That's kind of cool.
Tornado thing. Yeah. Let me see. Where is it? There it is. It's like hiding behind the bridge. I mean, we can make that larger, I guess. I don't know. That doesn't look that good. We don't have a lot of room. That's the problem.
That's true. And I mean, it already is
cool. It's got the lightning,
yeah. Yeah, that's
kind of this red one.
That's kind of sweet. Ooh.
I don't know. I think we just go with the lightning one.
Yeah, lightning. And that's kind of easy. It's subtle back there, and you're not necessarily having to match so much of the color in the water with.
Right.
Obviously, if you had something sunny, then the whole color changes a little bit and the lighting changes a little.
Definitely. So we have the sky replacement group now, and I can just delete this layer because I was just using it as a placeholder. And what I can do now, just so that the bridge doesn't look so bad, this is going to be like a really ugly hack, guys, but I think it'll work. Who knows? So I'm just going to select the bridge here, like so. Let's see if this works, James. I have no idea. And then just place it.
I have faith. Let's see.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just place it like above. I'll place it in the same group. Control Shift V to paste in place. And then I can use the blend diff and on this layer hide, just see if I could hide things too. That's not too bad.
I can confidently say I've never used that tool there, but I know that is a powerful tool.
Yeah, maybe multiply might work. I'm just trying to make sure that the small detail comes through. So that's before and after. And then with the layer mask, I'll hide everything. If I hold Alt on Windows Option in the Mac and click, I'll hide everything, and then I can paint with white in areas that I want to keep that detail.
Perfect.
and this is like behind their bodies too, I think.
Right. So you probably, you probably aren't even going to see a lot of that. So
yeah.
Steve, you're coming in hot with some of these titles and story. There could be a second dude in the picture, like a love triangle.
Ooh.
And the movie is called Where the Buoys Are. Oh, Where the Boys Are.
That's so
good.
funny.
That's good. Yeah. Guys, just keep them coming. We are going to take a break right now, Jesus. So save it up. And we're about to do a little artist spotlight here. So
sounds
and
good.
Then we'll finalize the composition here. So,
sounds good. So before we do that, I'm just gonna copy everything, save it first of all, and then Control A, Control Shift C, and then paste that in here just so that we can see where. Oops, I forgot to turn on the layer with the couple. So let me just turn that on, and then see, okay, we're gonna have to come back to this.
Okay, we'll have to revisit this a little bit.
Sounds fantastic. So let me bring up the artists for today, and this is Thiago, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Is Peraca, I believe. It's in Portuguese. Somebody in the chat, I don't know how they're going to tell us how to pronounce it, but let us know if you know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up if we've pronounced that right. Thiago, thank you so much for submitting and for letting us kind of highlight your work. It's absolutely beautiful, and the breadth of work that you have here is pretty remarkable. So
it is incredible. He's from Porto Alegre, Brazil. And any particular piece that you want to check out?
I don't know. I mean, I was looking through some of his work earlier, and I was sort of just clicking on what caught my attention. And for me, that issue magazine, that issue fashion magazine.
Oh, let me go back to it. Before that, he's really good at retouching.
Yeah, I noticed that. Really, really beautiful retouching work, and not overdoing it too. I think that's the key between a professional retoucher and someone who's maybe doing it for the first time.
And you know what I was going to say, James? I was going to say, oh man, he did a fantastic masking job here, creating that negative space. But in reality, look at this. It was actually like in the real photo.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful composition too, because he has negative space on both sides of that photo, but it works because he's almost centered in the frame. So, oh, wow, that's gorgeous.
So he's actually doing something that I like that retouchers do, which is he kept, obviously this photo's retouch, right? And sure, he might have removed some blemishes and even some wrinkles, but he left a lot of that in. So the way that I think retouching should be done, and this is just my opinion, everybody can disagree if they like, is leave anything that belongs to the person, like the wrinkles, they're his. If he's got a pimple or something that it's going to be gone away, next week, then remove that. That's the way that I look at retouching. Yeah,
that's a super interesting and very valid point too, because I think early on, even when I was retouching some photos of my own, you can take it to the extreme and the subject ends up looking painted and fake. And that's not the intention. The intention is to just bring out the best parts of that portrait. And Thiago, you're really doing an incredible job, not only with these portraits, but the retouching as well. And it seems like a lot of them for magazines and for some high fashion print ads.
Which you were talking about this one here? The Match Point issue magazine, is that the one you were referring to?
The issue, it's like issue fashion, just one of the galleries that I clicked on that I was kind of interested in. So it's the tennis player. Yeah. A lot of things I liked about this. Obviously the photo, I think the energy and movement in a photo like this, or in a series like this, is really incredible, and difficult to nail, and I think he's done an amazing job. I think the way that everything is laid out as a spread, as a professional print ad, is also highly considered as well. And he's done an amazing job in all these galleries really doing that.
Yeah. And you know what I'm wondering now, like on a photo like this one, I'm wondering if he did any type of sky extension or even this area. Cause like, if you notice here, the line looks almost like it was duplicated, because we see a lot of detail
right
on the horizon line here. And then we get to this part here and we don't see that much. So I'm wondering if he extended the image so that the subject was placed exactly where he wanted it in. That's very interesting. I think in that photo specifically, and a lot of his other work, clearly there is
a heavy use of a reflector or some other light sources, because they are very sharp. And when you look at an image like this, of course, when you're shooting this, you're either using that natural sunlight, trying to shoot, natural light, or using some artificial light. And honestly, I think a lot of what he's doing is really just using, a minimal reflector and bouncing light with what he has. He's not going, super overboard with strobes in most cases.
Wow. Do you think this is all natural light?
No, that's one. I don't know. I mean, I think that you can very easily have that be natural light, but I also feel like that source, wherever that window is probably an artificial light being thrown through that window. Okay. And so it's almost trying to, being masked as a natural light, but it really is artificial. And I think he does a really good job with that.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I think it's great work. And I mean, we were talking about it earlier, right? The negative space. I think he does a really good job when it comes to negative space.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's something that's so easy to just, I guess, amateur versus professional. There is a huge gap, and in Thiago's case here, to really just set the scene. Obviously, like those pillows, help to really create some of that space. This image as well. So everything really does have a purpose, and it's thoughtfully, presented. Really, really cool work. Oh, that's different. Wow. So that's some fine art cool retouching project.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Very good work.
Very good work. Wow, look at that tongue. That is so cool.
And you know what? I really like his use of color. He uses his color is so good.
And he's not really afraid to, he's not afraid to experiment with that color and almost take it right to the extreme, like that. Those greens and those yellows are almost as saturated as you can go without it clipping or without it looking like out of place. And I think that's a style choice that he's become known for in a lot of these images here. And just, gorgeous work. And it's fun. I think this one especially, I mean, like the props, the costume design, the production design, the location, all of those things as a portrait photographer, as a professional photographer, need to be considered to make an image that, is timeless like this and ends up in a magazine.
Definitely fantastic work. And, it's funny because on some of these, I'm looking at, as you were saying, the props, and I was thinking, oh man, I recognize all the products in that shopping cart, and this was shot in Brazil.
I know. Yeah. I know they're all, and they look like they're in, well, most of those look like they're in English, except for the frosted flakes.
Right.
Sucril. I'm not even going to attempt that. Sorry. I don't want to butcher it.
Sucrilos. I don't know. I said that with an Italian accent. Probably not. Probably not that pronunciation. But yeah, great work.
Sure. I mean, I really do love the photography. I mean, as a photographer myself, I think it's always inspiring to see work like this. It's always inspiring to study other people's work that shoot different styles and shoot, different subjects than you're accustomed to. And I think it's interesting I always sort of like to look at the lighting, the scene, maybe what lenses are used, or, the focal length, the depth of field, all of that goes into really creating these incredible photos.
Yep. Looks fantastic.
Awesome. Cool. Well, again, for those that are, watching the spotlight, please, send us your nominations, nominate yourself. We would love to continue to highlight other artists that are creating amazing work and inspiring the world. These types of sessions are inspiring. And Thiago, keep it up. Your work is absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure we will be seeing you all over the place. Great
work. Also, I want to give a shout out to Rocky Montez Carr in the chat, who also has some great work of his own. I'm going to embarrass him a little bit, and we're going to see some of his work. Let's see, Rocky, where are you? How do I look for
Rocky people?
There we go. Rocky out of Las Vegas. Rocky. Good friend of mine. Thank you for being in the chat, Rocky.
Awesome.
But this is the type of work that Rocky works with, and he works with, celebrities such as myself and Trevor Noah. Yeah, right. not me, but he works with real celebrities, and he does fantastic work. He also does cinemagraphs and a bunch of other great work. So check out Rocky, who is a good friend of mine, and he does good work. Also an Adobe Mac speaker, like myself and your wife also, Anna. Wow. Yeah. She's been a Mac speaker tour or 2 times.
This year was the first. I think this year was the first time she was a speaker. She was an insider a few years ago, and I have been going to Macs just as an attendee for the last 4-ish years, and I hosted a couple sessions this year, so it was awesome. a lot of fun. But yeah, Rocky, great work. This is it's cool to see the breadth of people that you've worked with, and the portrait work. I love that Macallan ad there. I'm a Scotch drinker myself, so I'm always drawn to but these are beautiful, beautiful work. And again, to reiterate before, I mean, Behance is a great place to showcase this kind of work and to really have a community support, fellow artists. It's why we're here. It's why we're doing this.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for submitting your work. And like James was saying, submit your work and maybe you can get featured in the next stream.
Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. And also, Rocky, thanks for the support, man. I appreciate you being here in the chat and for all your phone calls and messages recently when I was in a time of need. Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Cool. All right. So we got, Jesus, you got about 15 minutes left to not only come up with a movie title and script, but to get this distributed and onto Amazon Prime.
Sounds great. I think I can do it, James.
Great.
Let's see. I got to figure out why their face is covered now. So let me see. Oh, the sky replacement. That's why. So I think that if I were to take this couple group and place it on top of the sky replacement, I think we'll be good. All right, great. We're good.
Perfect.
Did I mess anything else up? I mean, his hair is, I can work on the hair a little bit, but overall it looks good. So I can, press Control A, Command A on the Mac to select all, do the same copy thing we've been doing. And I just want to see where we're at. So what do you think? The shadows definitely bring the image together better, I think.
Oh, definitely.
I like the sign. I'm not sold on the sky, but I guess it is better. So we'll see what we have when I save this. There we go.
I think it gives it, I sort of like the subtle lightning strike. I think it gives it something else in the background, and you can tone that down if we really had to. But I think the sky looks a little bit better than what was there previously.
Yeah. And you know what, before I forget, James, because we kind of teased it a little bit, but we didn't really talk about much was, that's not Rocky's work, we already talked about him. Let me open up a different window, was the movie titles. So I'm going to paste this link in the chat just so that you guys can have it. And I was doing some research earlier about what fonts in Adobe fonts are from movies. And I found this really cool link on the Creative Cloud website. Link is in the chat. And basically what it is, it shows you a movie poster and then what Adobe fonts were used to create that movie poster, which is pretty cool. So you can just come in here and, click on one of these guys, for example, and you can see it there. And you can see the preview here. And you can just call, we can use The Flood or whatever a movie is called, and we can see how the font will look. And if we want to activate it, I can click on activate and it will show in in your Creative Cloud library, and you can use it with the type tool in Photoshop and any other application that supports Creative Cloud fonts.
That's such a great tool. And I just learned that before we got on the stream today. So, and it's another great way to, I guess, get pre-inspired before you take on a movie poster or just for your own graphic design work, because you look at something like, oh wow, that I didn't think that would be maybe the style of that title, but it gives you some inspiration, I think, to create something in your own unique way. Definitely.
So let's see. So let me see if this is the script font that they use for that movie. So we can type in, I guess we'll call the movie The Flood, or do we have any better names?
Let's call it The Brooklyn Flood.
The Brooklyn Flood. Let me know if I spelled it correctly.
I think you got that right. If people are not okay with that title, please give us some other suggestions and we'll pick our favorites, but I think we'll go with that for now.
Which script should we use?
Let's see.
I kind of like this one here.
That's the one I was drawn to as well.
Cool. So it's Mr. Defoe Pro Regular. I'll activate that. I'll press OK. And just so that I don't have to retype it, I'm just gonna copy the text, and I'll remember that it was Mr. Defoe Pro Regular. So we can go here, and in the type tool, I can type, paste. I will make this white. So with that layer selected, I can make it white. And the font was Mr.
Defoe. That would be what his name is in the movie. That's Mr.
Yes,
Defoe.
that's the Mr. that he looks like Mr. Defoe. Here it is, Mr. Defoe Pro. There it is. And now I can just make it larger.
We got Bridging Love, Brooklyn style, or It's Raining Mermen. That's a little on the nose, but I like it.
Definitely. So that looks pretty good. Or should we go like 3 lines? What do you guys think? And then obviously I can adjust the spacing, but 1 line or 3 lines?
I like 3 lines. And then I think you could always, that treatment could be centered right there below them and it fills that negative space up a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I don't know, something like that. And then maybe this one.
Water Under the Bridge rom-com. Maybe that could be the tagline. It could be, it's all water under the bridge.
We'll put that tagline in. I'm just bringing in that second line higher because I kind of like how the K matches the E here.
Yeah,
cool.
And then that Y, that Y over that D.
Yep,
that's pretty cool too.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's a really cool font.
And what was the tagline again?
It's all water under the bridge, or it's water under the bridge.
It's water under the bridge. There we go. And obviously I'll use a different font for that.
What a fun stream this has been, just to watch this come together.
Maybe I can use, I'll do something different. How much time do we have, James?
You have about 7-8 minutes.
Okay, that should be long enough. So I can go into Adobe Fonts, and from here I can just click on any one of these typefaces or collections and use any of the ones that I like, or I can go into like all fonts and then just select, maybe like for this I'll use a clean font probably, and then find one that works well. Just because I already downloaded it, I'm just going to use this one called Poppins, just, because it's there and we don't have a lot of time. But I just wanted to show you guys that you can select different tags and classifications and properties and all that good stuff so that you can find the right font for your particular project. So I'll go with Poppins since it's already there.
Cool.
So with this drop down, I can also click on this icon here, and it just shows me all the fonts that are downloaded from the Creative Cloud. So as you can see, I've downloaded quite a few so far, but Poppins should be in here. There it is, Poppins. And then maybe I can change the font to like, what do you think? Bold, or that might be too much. Maybe light?
Yeah, I think light, just because you have that pretty heavy bold title. And you could even that could even be a smaller,
something like that.
Sure.
And then we can decide from the characters panel here if we wanted all caps. I think all caps works
all
pretty
caps.
Good.
All caps is cool.
And then I think I talked about this yesterday, but maybe I typed it there. It's definitely not center. I wanted to center it. You can press Control A on Windows, Command A on the Mac to select the entire canvas. With the move tool selected, all you need to do is click on this icon and it centers it right onto that project. And I can do the same thing for this font, just so that it is in fact centered.
Awesome.
And I'll make one more adjustment. I'm not really liking the sky too much. So what I'll do is I'll create a hue and saturation adjustment layer, clip it to the layer below. Under masters, I'll select blues and then just bring down the blues so it's not so blue. Maybe bring down the cyans a little bit. And then like the reds, I can shift to a different hue. So I'm trying to make that a little more blue, or maybe not as strong, something like that. So before and after. Yeah. And then I'm now thinking that the background is a little too bright, so I can probably make it a bit darker. Yeah. So let me think here. How am I going to do this? In here, in this smart objects, I put everything into a smart object. I can just go into the curves adjustment, just make it just a tiny bit darker. Save it.
And everyone in the chat, we have about 5 minutes left here. So any last minute questions that you have for Jesus as we wrap up here, please leave those in the chat. And again, thank you to those who have been engaged and throwing us some movie titles. This has been a super, super fun live stream today. And I hope everyone has enjoyed it as much as I have.
Yeah, definitely. I've also had a lot of fun, and thank you everybody for your suggestions, your comments, your questions, and feel free to leave any others that you might have now. Why is this not looking the way I wanted it to look? Oh, there we go. I'm keep copying the wrong thing. There we go. That's what I want. So what I'll finish with is just fine tuning the smart object now that I got all my elements in here. And this is basically what my movie poster will look like. What I can do now is just treat this as a single image in my camera raw filter. So I can come in here and, just adjust the highlights. Maybe I'll make it brighter, shadows, whatever you want to do to your image. Maybe add a little bit more texture. I think there might be too much saturation at this point. I can also go into my color mixer, and maybe the saturation of the oranges is too much. I can bring it down. I can maybe increase the saturation of the blues. I really don't want that water in her jeans to pop, and just make any adjustments that you see fit on your composite. And I'm just adjusting these.
Do you ever use inside of the camera raw filter here? Do you use adjustment layers like the radial filter and the brush tool and stuff as well?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely use those. In this case, what I could probably do is do something like, by the way, there's a select subject and select sky now in these local adjustment tools besides the brush, linear, and radial gradients that you were talking about, James. So I could do something like select subject, for example, and it should select the two people here in this movie poster. And I should be able to make adjustments just to them. So let's see how I can now brighten them up a little bit so that they stand out more. Maybe, because they're the main. I'm sorry.
That was wasn't that new to the Adobe updates as of this past Adobe Max, right? I remember.
Yes, that is brand new. So, before and after.
Cool.
You can press OK, and this is our movie poster, the Brooklyn flood. It's water under the bridge.
If any
distributors
from Amazon Prime happen to be watching this stream, I think we're onto something. I think
I concur.
I have no idea what their conflict and this plot will be, but at least we have a really, really amazing poster.
Yeah, this will definitely compete with the new Spider-Man that's coming out.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Cool. So there's one quick thing that I want to plug before we go, which is I'm actually looking to grow my LinkedIn. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. Jesús Ramirez 9 is the URL. I'll place the link in the chat if you want to follow me there. The YouTube channel is Photoshop Training Channel, and this poster will be here in just a couple hours. I'm going to find all the links that I use for this poster, place them here for you guys so you can come and recreate it if you like. So I think that the one we created, James, together is much better than this rough draft that I had here before starting the stream. I think this is much, much better.
Definitely. I think it's cool to see that in two different streams, the final piece that you've done live is actually stronger than the one that you kind of mocked up at home. So I'm excited with how this turned out. And really now with the title, you can't even see the merman. Merman, it hides it, but it's there subtle enough where
it's there. And if you zoom in, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can see the stones of the road. Right. And oh yeah, he's a mermaid. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's necessary.
There he is. Yeah, there he is.
Cool. Well, again, Jesus, thank you for being an excellent wealth of knowledge, and I've learned so much as the host for the past 2 days, and I can't wait to hopefully do more of these with you in the future.
Likewise, it was a pleasure working with you.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up here, just some last housekeeping items for those that are watching. Don't forget to, whoops, what am I saying here? I know there's something I have to say, something afterwards. Yeah, stick around for the daily creative challenges with Andrew Hoke-Riddell. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And followed by branding and identity design with Paula Casa. Sorry, Paula. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us on day 2 of Adobe Live, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
It's okay. Was I just like staring into space? Cool. Yeah, that was fun.